Mən birinci dəfə tarixi zəfərimizdən sonra
When I first came to Jabrayil after our historic victory, I was horrified. We knew that the Armenians had shown their barbarism everywhere on our lands. We knew that the vast majority of our territories were in ruins. But it was unimaginable to think that such savagery and inhumane actions could exist. In Jabrayil, there were practically only 2 buildings left. Armenian soldiers had occupied those. The rest of the city looks like this. And those Western states that do not want to see this and still support Armenia today, justifying their policies of aggression, should open their eyes wide and look. They see, but pretend not to see. They accuse us, and sanctions are imposed against us. Not a single sanction has been imposed on Armenia in 30 years. Armenia violated all norms and principles of international law, occupied about 20% of our lands, carried out ethnic cleansing, committed the Khojaly genocide, and left all our cities and villages in ruins. Has any official representative of any Western country ever reprimanded them? No. They even ignored the resolutions of the UN Security Council, the world's #1 organization. However, the resolutions of the Security Council must be implemented. In 1993, 4 resolutions were adopted. Did anyone say to them until 2020, "You've occupied those lands, you must leave"? No. What the Minsk group engaged in was only stalling these matters, justifying the Armenian occupation to some extent, and provoking us to accept humiliating peace. The activities of the Minsk group consisted of this. When we raised our rightful voices on all international platforms, we were told that our words were too sharp. This sharp rhetoric does not bring peace closer, it distances it. You must find a common language with Armenia. Make peace. You have lost the war. Accept it. We have heard all of this, both in official statements and behind closed doors during contacts. Our position, however, was unequivocal, resolute, and unchanged. Not a single inch of land can remain under occupation. If the issue cannot be resolved peacefully, we will resolve it through war. My words are in all archives. What did they say in response to this? There is no military solution to this conflict. In other words, Western states used all kinds of dirty tactics to reconcile us with defeat so that we would not liberate our lands from occupation. France and similar Western states did everything they could to perpetuate this occupation. Look at the degree of this injustice. The countries that wanted to gift our lands to Armenia were allegedly engaged in resolving this conflict. But their true intention was to keep us under constant pressure and gift these lands to Armenia. What did their proposals consist of? They consisted of granting independence to the former Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Oblast. After all, there must be a degree of this hypocrisy and duplicity, right? Look at the Russia-Ukraine war today. What do Western states, France, America, and others say? They say that Ukraine's territorial integrity must be restored, and Ukraine must use weapons. They provide all kinds of weapons to Ukraine. Well, why was the attitude different towards our occupied lands? After all, our territorial integrity was also violated. 1 million people became homeless. Who was helping us? While 1 million people were living in wagons, dormitories, kindergartens, and tents. Why was such duplicity displayed? We demand answers to these questions. But where do we see the answer? Again, in the anti-Azerbaijani actions. This morning, I was informed that 60 pro-Armenian congressmen from the US Congress have appealed to the American government to impose new sanctions on Azerbaijan. This morning, I glanced through that appeal. It is a dirty appeal that cannot influence our will. However, what does this show? It shows that the policy of hostility towards us does not stop. When I looked at that appeal, I guessed that both its author and addressee were the same, because its addressee is the US Secretary of State. But I have no doubt that this appeal was also written in the US Department of State. In other words, they are writing letters to themselves to threaten us, to accuse us. After all, what have we done? We have liberated our native lands. Is there an Armenian living here? No, you. the residents of Cəbrayıl are. In other places, they have left all the villages of Azerbaijan in such a state today as well. They have destroyed our mosques and turned them into animal stalls, keeping cows and pigs. Has anyone in the West said that Azerbaijan's cultural heritage is being looted, destroyed, and desecrated? No. But what are we accused of? Allegedly, we are destroying some historical heritage. It is completely baseless. America imposed sanctions against us in 1992 when we were losing our lands. Then the sanctions were lifted in 2001. Why? Because their aggressive activities in Afghanistan had begun. A war of occupation had started, and they needed us. As long as they remained in Afghanistan, these sanctions were waived annually by the US president. When they fled Afghanistan, right in front of the eyes of the entire world, these sanctions were reimposed against us. Is there a degree of ingratitude in this, or not? I mean, when you need us, you waive these sanctions. When you no longer need us, you reimpose them again. Why? For this reason, for this building. Because of residential areas like this, that we have built and restored in all the regions for our former IDPs. Look, their eyes cannot endure this. They cannot accept this day. Today is a day of mourning, a day of grief for the anti-Azerbaijani forces. How is it possible that Azerbaijan restored its rights without any permission, without asking anyone, without fearing anyone, without considering anyone by its own strength, thanks to the sacrifices of its children? They cannot forgive us for this. And today sanctions are imposed on Azerbaijan from America. After that, they say, let's strengthen our friendship. What kind of friendship can be discussed? Our friend is the one who rejoices today. I said this a few days ago. Those who are disappointed with this day and do not accept it can never be our friends. This is what the Azerbaijani people should know. It must be said openly. Let diplomats speak in diplomatic language. I have always told the truth to the Azerbaijani people. At all times, and today, the truth is still this. But we must rely on our strength and not be deceived by any promises, sweet words, or deceitful expressions. I especially mean the younger generation. Because today, the main target of anti-Azerbaijan forces is the consciousness of the younger generations. They are trying to influence it. That's why they fabricate and disseminate outrageous lies against Azerbaijan through their media and so-called non-governmental organizations. Various elements with anti-Azerbaijan stances are still being funded in Azerbaijan under different NGOs and public organizations. If they manage to influence the youth's consciousness, they will essentially affect Azerbaijan's future. And the youth should never forget this.
İctimai qurumlar adı altında. Yəni gənc nəslin şuuruna təsir etsələr, demək olar ki, Azərbaycan gələcəyinə təsir edəcək. Heç vaxt gənclər unutmasın.